Hi guys, and welcome to another iPad mini review, and in this review I want to look at the decision by Apple to make the iPad mini reflect exactly the iPad in terms of the software that it runs and the operating system, specifically for its size of screen. Now, one of the things Apple boasted is that any application you can use on the iPad, you can use on the iPad mini because it is the same software. What that doesn't take into account on the press and all the positive aspects is that while this does use iPad software, it's on a much reduced screen, and this brings up some usability issues in terms of the size of buttons, the size of text, the size of everything basically. Because the smaller you get, the larger or the same size you need to keep some things in order to make them work properly. Let's just have a look at the home screen as an example. Now, if you look at the top bar here, you probably won't be able to see anything on there. I'm not sure if you can read the time on here at the top because obviously the clock is very small and this status bar is absolutely tiny. And if we zoom in, I can zoom in and you can see that is your status bar here. When we compare it to the rest of the screen, how much do you think in terms of space is the top bar taking up of the entire tablet? It looks as if width-wise it's probably not taking up any more than maybe 1 or 2%, if that. And I've actually brought along my masculine tape measure to actually find out how wide this status bar is. I'm not going to dwell on this point too much, but it's just to make a starter. I'm not sure how well this will come up on camera, but looking at it, that top status bar is probably about 3mm or 4mm thick, and that just sounds a bit ludicrous on a 7.9-inch tablet. It's one of the most important aspects of the device in terms of its time, its Wi-Fi, its battery status, and because it's so small, obviously it means you can't put any notifications on it, or Apple also choose not to put any notifications on it. You have to get to them by swiping down and doing that. So already I'm a little disappointed in the size of the status bar just compared to everything else, because yes, it's nice to have these icons, which to be fair aren't that big compared to the rest of the background. I mean, you could probably fit another icon in all of these. Not that I want to clutter up the screen completely, but it just looks a bit bare. Almost, when I was reviewing a Surface RT, it almost looks a bit like that in terms of there's a lot of dead space on the screen. Now, the icons are, I would say, large enough. The buttons here are big enough to press on. But when we go into an application itself, this is where things can get a little tricky. And this is especially so in the App Store. Now, if I press on here, again, look at the top here. We have the categories for all categories, games, education and more. And this is a very important part of navigating around this screen. Because that's, you know, these are like your home buttons. There's places that you want to go. Again, the featured items, a very big box, very easy, very big. But I can sometimes mispress on this top bar. I don't always get it just right. I mean, now I'm pressed there, I missed the more button there. But sometimes it can be a little difficult pressing the buttons. And even worse is this cross button here. Now, this might be a bug or a software issue, but this cross here, I cannot press it no matter how many times I try. I'll probably do it first time now that I'm trying to demonstrate, but if I try and use this cross button because I want to get rid of the word fantasy football, I can't press it. It just will not do what it's supposed to do. I can press as many times as I want and I just can't seem to hit it. And I think that's probably a bug on the App Store. But even so, it's a tiny button, and in other places where it is used, I sometimes can't press a button because it's just so small. Again, just look at the whole screen and then look at how big one of the function buttons is. It's just too small to be inch perfect in that you hit it every time. If I go onto one of the apps, let's have a look here. Let's just bring up one completely by random. And again, we have again the function buttons here. We've got about 4 function buttons here, but again they just take up a very small amount of the whole screen. And it's because on the iPad those buttons are more than sizable enough to press on them, but because it's just basically shrunk down on an iPad mini, I just find it a lot more difficult to press on them. If you go into another application, you'll probably find the same slight niggles. Again, the BBC application, this bar at the top, very small. Again, you can press on them, but the thing I think I also want to say is that when you're using a tablet, you want to be very quick. You just want to go from one place, quickly press on something and go to the next place. But because the buttons are so small, you find yourself having to just be a little bit more exact and direct with the buttons that you're pressing. And sometimes you just don't hit the correct button. I'm not really demonstrating that too well in this one because I seem to be hitting all my buttons quite right. But just compared to another tablet I've used, the Nexus 7 for example, again it lurks into another iPad mini review, the buttons are just a bit bigger and nicer to use, and I think really it could be me just having a little bit of a criticism on the iPad design really more than anything else. It's just not as, I would say, approachable and as intuitive accessibility wise, because again you've got to think about tablets are appealing to the masses, and a lot of people who have never used computers or laptops, or have used them very rarely, have been kind of scared off by the keyboard and all the complexities of Windows, are liking these touchscreen devices where you press once and it just loads up the thing that you're wanting to use, whether it be an application, a video and so on. These very small icons and these very small buttons make it a bit of an accessibility issue. This is a video that's really open up to debate. That's what I think. I'm not necessarily saying that everyone will agree with me, but I just find that some of the things like the status bar and some of the buttons and sometimes some of the text, because again looking at an iPad, the text on here would be slightly bigger on an iPad because it's 10 inches, but it's just shrunk down. This is the largest font size I can get on the BBC website, but I would like it to be bigger, but that is the largest font size I can get. So again, just a little small thing about font sizes not being quite right, but of course there's all sorts of arguments about that because I can use Reader, which is an excellent way of reading the font at your size and using it on any website. I'm blathering on a bit here, so I'll stop the video right there. Get your comments in. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon in another iPad mini review video.